0800 hours. February 26, 1945. Elsdorf, Germany. The frost clings to every surface. Oberfeldwebel Heinrich Voss presses his eye to the gunner's scope inside his Tiger tank. The village ahead is silent, too silent. Behind him, the loader stacks 88mm shells in the ready rack. High explosive, armor-piercing. The brass casings gleam in the dim turret light. Voss has been fighting since Kursk, 2 years of Eastern Front hell. Steel against steel, fire against fire. The Tiger has always been the hunter, 57 tons of German engineering. The 88mm KWK-36 gun extends nearly 17 feet from the turret face. At 1,000 meters, it can penetrate 112 millimeters of armor. The Americans know this. Their Sherman tanks learned it at Normandy, learned it in the Ardennes, learned it the hard way. But this morning, something feels different. The radio chatter from other units has changed. American Panzer, they say. Neue Typ, new type. Heavy armor, long gun. Voss dismisses it. He's heard these reports before. Every Sherman looks like a Tiger to a panicked grenadier. The Americans don't build heavy tanks. They build Shermans, thousands of them. Thin armor, weak guns, easy kills. The mathematics are simple. The Tiger's frontal armor is 100 millimeters thick. The Sherman's 75mm gun can't penetrate it beyond 300 meters. But the Tiger's 88 can kill a Sherman at 1,500 meters. The engagement envelope favors Germany 9-1. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today. Voss adjusts his periscope magnification, 4-power zoom. The crosshairs sweep across empty streets, broken windows. A church steeple, half collapsed. Movement catches his eye. American tanks rolling through the village. 3 of them. No, 4. He counts silhouettes against the morning sky. His pulse doesn't quicken. This is routine. The Tiger has killed dozens of American tanks. Today will be no different. The lead American tank clears the corner building. Voss expects to see the familiar rounded hull of a Sherman, the sloped front plate, the short-barreled 75mm gun. But the silhouette is wrong. The hull sits lower, wider. The turret is massive. And that gun extends impossibly far forward, 12 feet past the turret face, maybe more. This isn't a Sherman. The American tank stops. Voss sees the commander's head disappear into the turret. They've spotted the Tiger's position. The range is close. Too close. 100 meters, maybe less. Both tanks sit motionless. 2 predators recognizing each other. The Tiger's advantage has always been range. Kill the Americans before they get close. But at 100 meters, the mathematics change. Voss's finger finds the trigger. The training takes over. Center mass. Aim for the glasses plate. Fire. The Tiger's 88 roars. The recoil rocks the entire 57-ton vehicle backward. Through the smoke, Voss sees the impact. The American tank's turret. The round punches through the machine gun port. Perfect shot. Perfect penetration. Inside that American tank, men are dying. The loader slams another shell into the breach, armor piercing. The mechanism closes with a metallic clang. Voss doesn't wait. Second shot. He aims for the gun barrel. If he can disable their main armament, they're helpless. The 88 fires. Again. The American tank's gun barrel jerks upward. Metal fragments spray. The barrel is twisted, destroyed. The American tank can't shoot back now. Third shot. Voss traverses slightly left, aims for the turret ring. The weak point on any tank, the 88 speaks once more. The round glances off the turret side. Sparks cascade. The cupola hatch tears free. 3 hits. 3 seconds. The American tank is combat ineffective. The crew is bailing out. Voss watches them scramble through hatches, dropping into the mud. 4 men running. They don't stop until they reach cover 200 meters away. The Tiger sits victorious. Smoke drifts from the gun barrel. The loader is already preparing the 4th shell. But there's no target. The other American tanks have reversed out of sight. The street is empty again, except for the burning hulk. Voss reports over the radio. Amerikanische Panzer vernichtet, American tank destroyed. The company commander acknowledges. But Voss's mind is still processing what he saw. That wasn't a Sherman. The armor was too thick, the gun too long, and those 3 direct hits. The American tank survived long enough for the crew to escape. A Sherman would have exploded from the first penetration. This new tank has better armor, better protection, better crew survivability. The implications trouble him. For 2 years, German armor superiority has been absolute. Tigers and Panthers dominate every battlefield. American tankers die in their Shermans, helpless against German firepower. The psychological advantage is crushing. American tank crews know they're outmatched before the first shot. But if the Americans have finally fielded a heavy tank, if they've built something that can fight Tigers on equal terms, everything changes. Voss doesn't have long to consider this. The radio erupts with new contacts. American armor advancing from multiple directions. The company is outnumbered. Withdrawal orders come through. Fall back to the next defensive line. The Tiger's engine sputters, won't start. The crew tries again. Nothing. The transmission has failed. 57 tons of steel is now a stationary pillbox. Voss makes the decision quickly. Abandon tank. The crew grabs personal weapons and runs. Behind them, the Tiger sits immobile in the German mud. The hunter has become the hunted. 24 hours later, February 27th, different village, different crew, but the same war. Staff Sergeant Nicholas Mashlonik commands a different American tank, the same type that Voss destroyed yesterday. The tank the Germans are starting to call the T-26. The Americans call it something else now. The Pershing, Mashlonik's Pershing, sits hull down behind a small rise. The position offers perfect fields of fire across 800 meters of open ground. Trees line the horizon, bare branches black against grey sky. No movement, no targets. The gunner, Corporal James Thompson, keeps his eye pressed to the periscope. Waiting. The loader, Private First Class William Carter, stands ready with 90mm shells, 24 pounds each. The brass cases gleam yellow under the turret light. The intelligence briefing was clear. German armor in the area, Tiger tanks, maybe Panthers. The mission is simple. Find them, kill them, prove what the Pershing can do. Because yesterday's loss at Elsdorf has raised questions. The first combat engagement between a Tiger and a Pershing ended with an American tank knocked out, 3 crew members dead, the gun destroyed. Some officers are already questioning whether the Pershing is worth the investment. Whether 41 tons of American steel can really match 57 tons of German engineering. Mashlonik knows the answer. It's in the numbers. The Pershing's 90mm M3 gun fires high-velocity, armor-piercing rounds. Tungsten core. At 1,000 yards, it can penetrate 246mm of steel. The Tiger's frontal armor is 100mm thick. The mathematics are decisive. The Pershing doesn't just match the Tiger, it exceeds it. Movement in the tree line. Thompson sees it first. Dark shape between the trunks, angular silhouette, the unmistakable profile of a Tiger tank. Range 900 yards. The German tank emerges slowly, cautiously. The commander knows Americans are nearby. The long 88mm gun sweeps left and right, searching for targets. Camouflage netting still clings to the turret sides. The Tiger is hunting, but so is the Pershing. Thompson centers the crosshairs on the Tiger's frontal armor. The rangefinder shows 850 yards, within the M3 gun's optimal range. But this is the moment of truth. Yesterday at Elsdorf, a Tiger destroyed a Pershing with 3 shots. Can the Pershing return the favor? The technical specifications say yes, the tungsten penetrator should punch through Tiger armor like paper. But specifications aren't combat. Reality has a way of proving theories wrong. Mashlonik gives the order. Load HVAP. Carter grabs the special round from the secure locker. 28 pounds of tungsten-cored death. He slams it into the breech. The mechanism closes with a solid click. The gun is ready. Thompson adjusts his aim point. Center mass on the glacier's plate. The thickest part of the Tiger's armor. If the HVAP round can penetrate there, it can penetrate anywhere. Fire when ready. Thompson takes a deep breath. The crosshairs steady on target. The Tiger fills the periscope view. Massive. Intimidating. The apex predator of European battlefields for 2 years. His finger squeezes the trigger, 8 pounds of pressure. The 90mm gun roars. The Pershing rocks backward on its suspension. Smoke fills the turret. The muzzle flash illuminates the landscape like lightning. The HVAP round leaves the barrel at 2,800 feet per second. Flight time, 1.1 seconds. The tungsten penetrator strikes the Tiger's glacis plate 6 inches below the gun mantlet. The steel glows white-hot, then orange. Then it fails, catastrophically. The penetrator continues through the fighting compartment, severing hydraulic lines, igniting ammunition. The Tiger explodes. Flames erupt from every hatch and viewport. The turret lifts 3 feet off its ring, balances there for a moment, then crashes back down at a twisted angle. Secondary explosions ripple through the hull as stored ammunition cooks off. Black smoke rises 500 feet into the grey morning air. A target destroyed, Thompson reports calmly. 1 shot, 1 kill. The Tiger that dominated European battlefields for 2 years just died in 1.1 seconds. The crew never had time to return fire, never had time to traverse their gun, never had time to understand what hit them. The Pershing has proven its worth. American steel can match German engineering. The mathematics work, in reality, just as they do on paper. But something more important has happened. Something psychological. For 2 years, German tank crews believed in their technological superiority. Tigers and Panthers could engage Allied tanks at ranges where return fire was ineffective. The engagement envelope favored Germany. German tankers attacked with confidence. Allied tankers defended with fear. But that psychological advantage just evaporated in 1.1 seconds. The hunter has become the hunted. The date was January 15th, 1945. Antwerp Harbour, Belgium. Stevedores winched T-26 E-3 tanks off Liberty ships using 40-ton cranes. The tanks rolled down steel ramps onto Belgian cobblestones. Their tracks left deep gouges in the stone. Lieutenant Colonel Wesley Sweat watched from the dock. 3rd Armoured Division. He counted each tank as it cleared the ship's hold. 20 tanks. That was the entire European allocation. Behind him, rows of Sherman tanks stretched toward the horizon, hundreds of them, all armed with 75mm guns that couldn't penetrate Tiger frontal armor beyond 300 meters. Sweat walked around the lead T-26. The hull measured 20 feet long. The turret added another 8 feet of gun overhang. Total weight, 41 tons. He examined the frontal armor plate, 4 inches thick, cast steel, sloped at 46 degrees. The effective thickness was over 140 millimeters, thicker than anything mounted on American tanks before. The Germans had been building tanks like this since 1942. America was 3 years late to the heavy tank war. The 90mm gun dominated the silhouette, 12 feet of rifled steel barrel extending past the turret face. The muzzle brake added another foot. This was America's answer to the German 88. Same caliber philosophy, same high-velocity design. But 3 years of watching Sherman crews die had finally convinced American leadership that tank-destroyer doctrine wasn't working. Tanks needed to fight tanks, and to fight German heavy tanks, America needed its own heavy tanks. The development story was frustrating. The T-20 series prototypes began testing in 1942. The same year, Tigers entered combat on the Eastern Front. But Lieutenant General Leslie McNair opposed heavy tank development. His tank destroyer doctrine insisted that American tanks should support infantry and exploit breakthroughs. Tank destroyers would handle enemy armor. Tanks fighting tanks was inefficient, wasteful, a misuse of armored resources. McNair's opposition delayed the T-26 program for 2 years. While American tank crews burned alive in Shermans at Normandy, the T-26 sat in American proving grounds. While Tigers dominated the Ardennes during the Battle of the Bulge, the T-26 waited for production approval. It wasn't until December 19th, 1944, that desperation finally overruled doctrine. The losses in the Bulge were catastrophic. American armor was being slaughtered by concentrated German Panzer formations. Something had to change. Production began in November 1944 at Fisher Tank Arsenal. 10 tanks that month, 30 in December, 70 in January 1945. By February, production reached 132 tanks per month, but Europe needed them immediately. The first 20 were shipped in January. The Zebra technical mission accompanied them. Engineers and ordnance officers tasked with supporting the new tanks in combat, fixing teething problems, gathering data, proving the design worked. The 20 tanks were divided equally, 10 to 3rd Armored Division, 10 to 9th Armored Division. Each division selected its best tank commanders and crews, men with combat experience, men who understood tank gunnery, men who could maximize the Pershing's potential. Because these 20 tanks weren't just weapons, they were proof of concept. If they succeeded, production would increase. If they failed, the program might be cancelled. Staff Sergeant Clarence Smoyer received his transfer orders on January 25th. Report to the motor pool, new tank assignment. Smoyer had been fighting in Sherman since Normandy, 75mm gun, 3 inches of frontal armor. He'd watched German 88s punch through Sherman glacis plates like they were cardboard. He'd pulled wounded crew members from burning hulls. He'd attended too many funerals for tankers who never had a fighting chance. The Pershing waited under camouflage netting. Smoyer climbed through the driver's hatch. The interior smelled like fresh paint and machine oil. Everything was different. The gun breech dominated the turret space. Massive. The ammunition racks held fewer rounds than the Sherman, 70 shells instead of 90, but each shell was bigger, heavier, more lethal. The gunner's periscope offered 4-power magnification. Smoyer adjusted the eyepiece. The crosshairs looked familiar, same reticle pattern as the Sherman, but the traverse motor sounded different, quieter, more precise, electric instead of hydraulic. Technical Sergeant Robert Early squeezed into the commander's position. "What do you think, Smoyer?" "Feels solid," Smoyer replied. Early nodded. "It better. We're carrying 41 tons of reputation here." The statement was accurate. These 20 tanks represented America's response to 2 years of armor inferiority. Every engagement would be watched. Every kill would be analyzed. Every loss would be questioned. The pressure was enormous. The gunnery manual arrived 3 days later. Classified document. Smoyer read it by flashlight in his bunk. The 90mm M3 gun fired multiple ammunition types, high explosive for soft targets, armor piercing for standard penetration, and something new, high-velocity armor piercing. The HVAP round used a tungsten core surrounded by lightweight aluminum. At 1,000 yards, it could penetrate 246 millimeters of steel, enough to kill any German tank, even the Tiger II. But the manual included a critical warning. HVAP ammunition in extremely limited supply. Use only against confirmed heavy armor targets. Each Pershing carried exactly 12 HVAP rounds, 12 chances to kill the biggest German tanks. After that, crews would rely on standard armor-piercing rounds. Good enough for Panthers and Panzer IVs, questionable against Tigers, insufficient against Tiger IIs. The scarcity created tactical pressure. Every shot had to count. Crew training began immediately. Smoyer spent hours on the gunnery simulator. Electronic targets appeared at random ranges. He adjusted for distance, for wind, for target movement. The simulator recorded his hit percentage, 87% at ranges, under 1,000 yards, 93% under 500 yards. The accuracy was better than his Sherman performance. The stabilization was superior, the optics were clearer. But simulators weren't combat. Private First Class John DeRiggy joined as loader. He'd served on Sherman tanks since Normandy. His job was simple. Grab the right shell, slam it into the breech, clear the recoil path, 24 pounds per shell. The HVAP rounds were heavier, 28 pounds each. DeRiggy practiced the loading sequence until muscle memory took over. Armor piercing from the left rack, high, explosive from the right, HVAP from the special locker behind his position. Each shell type had different balance, different grip technique. Drop one and the crew dies. The deployment order came February 15th. 3rd Armored Division will advance to forward positions. T-26 E3 tanks will provide breakthrough capability at designated objectives. Smoyer's crew received their tank assignment, hull number USA 30119-836, nickname Eagle 7. The name was painted in white letters below the commander's hatch. Simple, direct, American. The tank, it was theirs now. For better or worse. Until combat separated them, or victory ended the war. The final equipment check took place February 19th. Smoyer tested every system, main gun elevation, plus 20 degrees to minus 10 degrees, full range confirmed, traverse, full 360 rotation in 15 seconds, smooth operation, ammunition load, 36 armor piercing, 18 high explosive, 12 HVAP, radio frequency preset to 3rd Armored Combat Net. The engine started with a deep rumble, 500 horsepower Ford GAF V8, the same engine used in Sherman tanks. But the Pershing weighed 11 tons more, maximum road speed 30 miles per hour on good terrain, less in mud, much less. Early climbed into the commander's position. Mount up, we're moving to contact. The convoy departed at 0600 hours. 20 Pershing tanks followed by supply trucks, ammunition carriers, recovery vehicles. The column stretched 2 miles along the Belgian highway. Destination, the Roa River line. Mission, breakthrough and exploitation. German intelligence had already identified the new American tanks. Prisoner interrogations revealed details. Heavy armor, long gun, limited numbers. The Wehrmacht issued new tactical guidance. American heavy tanks will be engaged at maximum range using anti-tank guns and tank destroyers. Avoid close engagement. But tactical guidance was theory. Combat was reality. And the reality was rolling toward Germany at 30 miles per hour, leaving deep track marks in the European mud. The cardboard tank myth was about to die. But first, it would be tested at Elsdorf, where Heinrich Voss's Tiger waited, where the first combat engagement between German and American heavy tanks would prove that specifications and reality don't always align, where 3 shots in 3 seconds would knock out America's newest tank, and where, 24 hours later, American vengeance would arrive with tungsten-cored fury. The morning of February 26th brought conditions that favored defense. Heavy clouds, poor visibility, mud that sucked at tank tracks like quicksand. The Pershing, called Fireball, moved through Elsdorf at 0330 hours. The crew was exhausted. They'd been fighting for 18 hours straight, pushing through German defensive lines, clearing strongpoints. The adrenaline was wearing off, fatigue was setting in. The tactical situation was confused. Radio communications were spotty, unit positions were unclear. American forces had advanced faster than expected. Some units were ahead of schedule, others were delayed. The front line had become a patchwork of penetrations and pockets. Dangerous terrain for armor, easy to get isolated, easy to get ambushed. Fireball's mission was simple: overwatch a roadblock, prevent German counterattack. The crew established position near a burning building. The fire provided illumination, perfect for visibility, terrible for concealment. The Pershing was silhouetted against the flames. Any German observer within 500 meters could see them clearly. But the crew didn't realize this. They were focused on the road ahead, watching for German movement, not considering their own exposure. The Tiger fired from 100 yards. 3 shots, 3 hits. The first round penetrated the turret through the machine gun port. The gunner and loader died instantly. The second shot struck the gun barrel. The round in the chamber detonated. The explosion tore the barrel apart, twisted metal, smoking steel. The main gun was destroyed. The third shot glanced off the turret side. Sparks cascaded. The cupola hatch tore free. Metal fragments rang like church bells. The driver threw Fireball into reverse. The transmission whined. Tracks churned mud. They backed away from the killing ground. But the Tiger didn't pursue. Its tracks didn't turn. Its engine didn't roar. The Tiger was stuck, immobilized in the same mud that plagued every vehicle in the Rhineland that February. Both tanks were combat ineffective. Both crews were alive. But only one tank could be recovered. Fireball was towed to a repair facility on February 27th. New barrel, new crew members, back in service by March 7th. The resilience was remarkable. A Sherman hit 3 times by 88mm rounds wouldn't have survived. The crew wouldn't have escaped. The Pershing's armor had done its job, kept the crew alive long enough to retreat. But the engagement had consequences. German intelligence received detailed reports. American heavy tank destroyed at Elsdorf. 3 direct hits required. 88mm gun effective at close range. The conclusion seemed obvious. The new American tank was vulnerable. German Tigers could kill them. The technological balance remained favored toward Germany. The cardboard tank theory held. American armor was still inferior. This assessment would prove catastrophically wrong, because 24 hours after Fireball was knocked out, Nicholas Mashlonik's Pershing killed a Tiger at 850 yards. One shot, one kill. The engagement lasted 1.1 seconds. The Tiger crew never returned fire, never had a chance. The tungsten penetrator proved its worth. 246 millimeters of penetration at 1,000 yards wasn't theoretical. It was real. It was decisive. It was the end of German armor superiority. The psychological impact rippled through German tank crews immediately. Radio intercepts from late February and early March 1945 revealed changing attitudes. Amerikanischer schwerer Panzer, American heavy tank, 90mm Kanone, 90mm gun, sehr gefährlich, very dangerous. The confidence that had sustained German tankers since Kursk was eroding. For the first time in the war, German crews were reporting reluctance to engage American armor. Withdrawal requests were increasing. The hunters were becoming cautious. Staff Sergeant Robert Early's crew received orders on March 3rd, move to Cologne, support 3rd Armored Division's assault on the city. Cologne was one of Germany's largest cities, over 700,000 residents before the war. Now, maybe 100,000 remained. The rest had fled or been evacuated. The city was a strategic prize, a psychological target, and it was defended by elements of 9th Panzer Division, 3rd Panzer Grenadier Division, and 363rd Volksgrenadier Division. German forces were outnumbered, outgunned, but they had urban terrain. They had prepared positions, and they had nothing to lose. Eagle 7 crossed the Roer River on March 4th. The bridge engineers had reinforced held at 41 tons, barely. The Pershing's weight stressed every structural member. Steel girders groaned. Concrete piers settled, but the bridge held. Once across, the advance continued. German resistance was determined but disorganized. Panzerfaust teams in rubble, machine gun nests in cellars, snipers in church steeples. Every building was a potential strong point. Every intersection was a killing zone. By March 6th, 3rd Armored Division had penetrated Cologne's city center. The cathedral still stood, miraculously intact despite Allied bombing. The twin spires rose 515 feet into the smoke-filled sky. A landmark visible for miles, a symbol of German resilience. And somewhere in the streets, near the cathedral, German armor was waiting. Panthers, maybe Tigers. The intelligence reports were unclear, but the threat was real. Company E, 32nd Armored Regiment, advanced down Komödienstrasse. 2 Sherman tanks led the column. This was standard tactics. Sherman's first. They were expendable, easier to replace. If they encountered heavy German armor, the Pershings would move up. Better armor, better gun, better chance of survival. The mathematics of attrition warfare. The lead Sherman, commanded by Lieutenant Robert Dietz, encountered debris at the intersection with Marzellenstrasse. A pile of rubble blocked the street, building fragments, broken masonry, wooden beams. The Sherman stopped. Dietz called for a bulldozer. While waiting, his tank sat motionless, exposed, a perfect target. The Panther was waiting 360 feet away, hidden behind the corner building at the far end of Marzellenstrasse. The crew had been in position for hours, waiting for American armor. The ambush was perfect. The Panther's 75mm gun fired. The round struck Dietz's Sherman in the turret. Penetration was immediate. The interior erupted in flames. Dietz and 2 crew members died instantly. The assistant driver and bow gunner were wounded, but survived. They bailed out through the bottom hatch, crawling through the mud while machine gun fire snapped overhead. The 2nd Sherman, commanded by Lieutenant John Kellner, attempted to reverse. Too slow. The Panther's 2nd shot destroyed the tracks. Kellner's tank was immobilized. The crew abandoned the vehicle before the 3rd shot arrived. They ran for cover. All 5 survived. Technical Sergeant James Bates was filming nearby. Army Signal Corps, his job was documenting the advance, recording the liberation of Cologne for newsreels and training films. He had been following 3rd Armored Division since Normandy. He'd filmed dozens of engagements, tank battles, infantry assaults, artillery strikes, but he'd never filmed anything like what was about to happen. He positioned himself on the second floor of a building overlooking the intersection. His camera was already rolling when the Panther destroyed both Shermans. Early's voice crackled over the radio net. Eagle 7 moving to engage. Bates kept filming. He watched through his viewfinder as the Pershing approached from a parallel street. The plan was simple. Come at the Panther from the side. Avoid its frontal armor. Hit the weaker side plates. Standard tank tactics. But the Panther commander, Wilhelm Bartelborth, was experienced. He'd been fighting since France in 1940. He knew American tactics. He understood the threat. Bartelborth's sixth sense triggered. He ordered his gunner to traverse right. The Panther's turret rotated. The 75mm gun swung toward the intersection where Eagle 7 would appear. Bates saw this through his camera. He wanted to warn the Americans, but he had no radio, no way to communicate. All he could do was film, document history as it unfolded, even if that history was American tankers driving into an ambush. Eagle 7 rounded the corner. Private First Class Homer Davis was driving. He was positioned on the front right side of the hull, the first to see around corners, the first to spot threats. His periscope was angled toward Marzellenstrasse. He saw the Panther immediately, and he saw its gun, pointing directly at them. Driver, the Panther's gun is on us. Early processed this instantly. They were supposed to engage the Panther's side armor. But Bartelborth had anticipated the flanking maneuver. The ambush had been reversed. Now, Eagle 7 was exposed, rolling into the Panther's line of fire. If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. Smoyer's hands moved automatically. Traverse right. The electric motor whined. The turret rotated, but not fast enough. The Panther was already aimed. Eagle 7 was still moving. The geometry was wrong. Smoyer didn't have a shot yet. The Panther did. In that instant, multiple factors aligned. Bartelborth's experience, his tactical awareness, his positioning, against American surprise, American confusion, American exposure. The engagement should have ended with another destroyed American tank, another crew killed or wounded, another victory for German armor, but Bartelborth hesitated. His daughter later revealed what he told the family. He thought Eagle 7 was a German tank. The silhouette was wrong for a Sherman. The size was wrong. The gun was massive. It looked like a Panther, maybe a captured German vehicle, maybe friendly armor. The Pershing had only been in Europe for 6 weeks. Only 20 tanks had been deployed initially. Most German tank commanders had never seen one, had never been briefed on its identification features. The hesitation lasted perhaps 2 seconds, maybe 3. Not long in normal time. An eternity in combat. Smoyer's turret traverse completed. The crosshairs settled on the Panther's side armor. Range 120 yards. Point blank for tank gunnery. The Panther's armor was 40mm thick on the sides. The Pershing's 90mm gun could penetrate that at 2,000 yards. At 120 yards, the armor was meaningless. De Riggy had already loaded an armor-piercing round. 24 pounds of hardened steel. The breech was closed. The gun was ready. Smoyer's finger found the trigger. No hesitation. No doubt. Fire. The 90mm gun roared. The Pershing rocked backward. Smoke filled the turret. Through his periscope, Smoyer saw the impact. The armor-piercing round struck the Panther's turret ring, the weakest structural point on any tank. The penetrator continued through the fighting compartment, through ammunition storage, through the engine compartment. The Panther didn't explode immediately. It just stopped. Engine died. Turret froze. Smoke began pouring from every hatch. The crew bailed out. 4 men scrambling through hatches, running across the open intersection. Machine gun fire followed them. Some made it to cover. Bartelborth was killed, hit by machine gun fire as he evacuated. His crew survived the tank destruction only to die in the street. The fog of war, the chaos of urban combat, the random brutality of close-quarters fighting. Bates captured everything on film. The entire engagement, from the moment Eagle 7 appeared to the Panther's destruction. 23 seconds of combat. The footage would become iconic. One of the few filmed records of tank versus tank combat in World War II. The image of the Pershing advancing past, the smoking Panther with Cologne Cathedral in the background, would appear in newspapers, newsreels, and history books for decades, the symbol of American technological achievement, the proof that American armor could match German engineering. But the significance went beyond one engagement, beyond one destroyed Panther. The Cologne Cathedral duel represented a psychological turning point. German tank crews had dominated European battlefields since 1940. Tigers and Panthers were technological marvels, feared by every Allied tanker from Normandy to the Rhine. But that fear was built on technological disparity. German guns could kill Allied tanks at ranges where Allied guns were ineffective. The mathematics favored Germany. The Pershing changed the mathematics. The 90mm gun matched the German 88. The tungsten-cored HVAP rounds could penetrate any German armor. The frontal protection could withstand most German anti-tank weapons. For the first time in the European war, American tanks weren't inferior. They were equal, maybe superior. The psychological impact on German crews was profound. Intelligence reports from March 1945 revealed the shift. Prisoner interrogations, radio intercepts, captured documents. German tank commanders were issuing new tactical guidance. Avoid engagement with American heavy tanks. Use indirect fire. Use terrain. Use anti-tank guns. But don't engage directly. The confidence was gone. The hunters had become prey. The Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen stretched 1,350 feet across the Rhine. Steel trusses supported double railroad tracks. Concrete towers anchored each end. German demolition charges hung from every support beam. The bridge was wired for destruction. Standard procedure: deny the Americans any rapid Rhine crossing, force them to conduct opposed river crossings, buy time for German forces to establish defensive positions on the East Bank. But on August 7, 1945, something unexpected happened. Elements of 9th Armored Division reached the bridge before German engineers could detonate the charges. The explosives failed. Technical malfunction, human error, divine intervention. The reason didn't matter. The bridge was intact. American forces had a crossing over Germany's last natural barrier. The strategic implications were enormous. A platoon of 5 Pershings from 9th Armored Division reached the bridge approach at 1420 hours. The tactical situation was confused. German forces were retreating across the bridge in disorganized panic. American forces were trying to secure the western approach. Artillery fire was falling on both banks, the bridge towers, the roadway. German gunners were trying to destroy their own bridge rather than let it fall intact into American hands. The Pershings provided fire support. Their 90mm guns engaged German positions on the east bank, suppressing anti-tank guns, destroying machine gun nests, covering infantry as they crossed. But the Pershings themselves didn't cross immediately. The bridge wasn't rated for their weight. 41 tons exceeded the design specifications for the pedestrian walkways. The railroad tracks could support the weight. Steel rails rated for locomotive loads. But crossing would require careful planning, slow movement, risk assessment. The first Pershing crossed at 1945 hours. Wooden planking was laid across the railroad ties, creating a roadway 12 feet wide. The tank moved at walking speed, 2 miles per hour. Tracks aligned precisely with the planking. One mistake meant disaster. The bridge swayed under the weight. Steel cables vibrated. Concrete towers groaned. But the structure held. German engineering proved stronger than German explosives. The crossing took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of exposure to German artillery fire. 20 minutes of structural stress. 20 minutes of hoping the bridge wouldn't collapse. But the Pershing reached the east bank safely. It immediately moved to a defensive position overlooking the river. The 90mm gun commanded the entire bridge approach. Any German counterattack would face American heavy armor. 2 more Pershings crossed successfully. Then, German artillery found the range. A 105mm shell struck the North Tower at 2040 hours. The explosion severed primary support cables. The bridge deck sagged 3 feet, steel beams twisted, railroad tracks buckled. The 4th Pershing was caught mid-span when the structure failed. The left track broke through damaged planking. The tank tilted sideways. 41 tons of American steel hung suspended over the Rhine River. The crew bailed out, scrambling across twisted steel and broken concrete. German machine gun fire swept the bridge deck. 2 crewmen made it to the east bank. 2 fell into the river. The Pershing hung there for 6 hours. A monument to overextension. American ambition meeting structural limitations. The bridge had held just long enough to get 3 Pershings across. Not enough for exploitation. Not enough to break through German defensive lines, but enough to hold the bridgehead, enough to prevent German forces from collapsing the crossing. German forces launched their counterattack at 0300 hours on March 8th. 2 companies of infantry, tank destroyer support, concentrated mortar fire. The objective was eliminating the American bridgehead before reinforcements arrived. The 3 Pershings fought from hull-down positions along the riverbank. Their 90mm guns dominated the battlefield. German infantry couldn't advance. Tank destroyers couldn't find effective firing positions. The firepower was overwhelming. But 3 tanks weren't sufficient for sustained operations. By dawn, ammunition was running low. Each Pershing had fired 30 rounds or more. High explosive against infantry, armor-piercing against vehicles, HVAP against the heaviest targets. Supply was critical, but aerial resupply was impossible. German anti-aircraft guns controlled the airspace. Ground transport was blocked by the damaged bridge. The Pershings were effectively isolated, powerful but alone. The German counterattack stalled, but it didn't retreat. Both sides settled into defensive positions. Americans held their bridgehead, Germans contained it. 3 Pershings had crossed the Rhine but couldn't exploit their advantage. The tactical lesson was clear. Heavy tanks needed heavy logistics. The Pershing's 41-ton weight was both strength and weakness. Superior firepower and protection came at the cost of strategic mobility, bridge capacity, supply requirements, maintenance complexity. The breakthrough came March 15th when Allied engineers completed the first heavy bridge across the Rhine at Remagen. Steel pontoons supported a roadway rated for 50 tons. The Pershings could finally cross in formation, not single file, not at walking speed, but as armored units, ready to advance, ready to exploit, ready to finish the war. Lieutenant Belton Cooper watched the 1st Tank Company roll across the floating bridge, 3rd Armored Ordnance Battalion. His job was keeping heavy tanks operational, track tension, engine oil, hydraulic fluid, ammunition resupply. The logistics was staggering. Each Pershing consumed 2 gallons of fuel per mile. The Ford engine required oil changes every 500 miles. The transmission needed service every 1,000 miles. In combat conditions, those intervals shortened dramatically. Cooper's maintenance crews worked 18-hour shifts, welding cracked armor, replacing damaged tracks, rebuilding transmissions. The Pershings were mechanically complex, more complex than Shermans. More things could break, more things did break, but when they worked, they dominated. Eagle 7 crossed the Rhine at 0830 hours. Smoyer felt the bridge sway under their weight. Steel cables vibrated, pontoons displaced water, but the crossing was smooth. No damaged planking, no structural failures. Industrial engineering at scale. The east bank revealed different terrain, flatter ground, longer sightlines, perfect country for tank versus tank engagements. The Germans had chosen defensive positions carefully, hull-down positions behind ridgelines, camouflaged gun emplacements, interlocking fields of fire. 3rd Armored Division's mission was simple: advance to the Weser River, destroy German armor, prevent organized withdrawal. The Pershings would spearhead every assault. The first major engagement occurred March 22nd near Paderborn. German reconnaissance reported American heavy tanks advancing in column formation. 24 Pershings, unprecedented concentration of firepower. Oberst Heinrich Weber commanded the defensive sector. 23rd Panzer Regiment. He had 12 tanks remaining. 8 Panzer IVs, 4 Panthers, no Tigers. Their heavy tanks had been transferred to other sectors weeks earlier. Weber's tactical problem was immediate. His 75mm guns could penetrate Sherman armor at 800 meters. Against Pershing frontal armor, effective range dropped to 300 meters, maybe less. The Americans advanced in staggered formation. Lead elements crested the ridge at 1,200 meters, too far for effective German fire. Perfect range for 90mm guns. The first Pershing fired at 12:05 hours, HVAP round and target camouflaged. Panther at 1,100 meters. The tungsten penetrator struck the mantlet dead center. The German tank exploded immediately. Flames erupted from every hatch. Weber ordered immediate withdrawal. His remaining tanks couldn't fight at those ranges. The tactical mathematics were brutal. American guns, effective at 1,200 meters. German guns, effective at 300 meters. The engagement envelope favored the Pershing 4-1. The withdrawal became a rout. German tanks retreated cross-country at maximum speed. No formation, no coordination. Individual survival took precedence over unit cohesion. The psychological impact was devastating. German tank crews had dominated European battlefields for 4 years. Superior armor, superior guns, superior tactics. The Americans had been easy targets, thin-skinned Shermans with weak guns. But the Pershing changed everything. Radio intercepts revealed German panic. Amerikanische Panzer, überall, American heavy tanks everywhere. Unit commanders reported contact with superior enemy armor at multiple locations. Withdrawal requests flooded divisional headquarters. The tactical shift was profound. German tank crews now avoided engagement whenever possible. Hit-and-run tactics, ambush positions, indirect fire, anything except direct confrontation with American heavy armor. Eagle 7 engaged 3 German tanks near Paderborn on March 22nd. Range 900 meters. Target types: 2 Panzer IVs, 1 Panther. Engagement duration 4 minutes. Results: 3 kills, 0 friendly losses. Smoyer's accuracy was exceptional. 17 confirmed kills since crossing the Rhine. 0 misses with HVAP ammunition. The tungsten cord rounds never failed to penetrate. Physics trumped armor every time. The German response evolved rapidly. They deployed 88mm anti-tank guns in concealed positions. Panzerfaust teams in urban areas, mines and obstacles on likely tank routes. If they couldn't match American firepower, they would use terrain and tactics. The countermeasures worked, occasionally. 1 Pershing hit a mine near Gütersloh. Another was knocked out by an 88 at close range in Kassel. But the losses were acceptable. Industrial capacity could replace damaged tanks faster than German defenses could destroy them. By March 28th, American heavy tanks had achieved operational supremacy across the entire front. German armored resistance collapsed. Panzer units retreated toward Berlin. The myth of German tank superiority was dead. Wehrmacht after-action reports told the story in clinical detail. Enemy heavy tanks demonstrate superior firepower at all engagement ranges. Recommend immediate withdrawal when contact is made. The hunters had become the hunted. The psychological transformation was complete. Cooper read intelligence summaries with professional satisfaction. His maintenance crews had kept Pershings operational through 3 weeks of continuous combat. Availability rates exceeded 90%, better than Sherman's, better than German tanks. The technical achievement was remarkable. American industry had designed, built, and deployed a tank that matched German heavy armor in every category: firepower, protection, mobility. The industrial miracle had produced a tactical revolution. Eagle 7 reached the Weser River on April 2nd. Mission complete. German defenses shattered. Organized resistance collapsed. The Pershings had proved their concept beyond doubt. Smoyer cleaned his periscope for the final time in combat. 23 confirmed kills, 0 losses to his crew. The cardboard tank theory wasn't just dead, it was buried under the wreckage of German panzer divisions. The German surrender came at 23:01 hours on May 8, 1945. Admiral Karl Dönitz signed the unconditional capitulation at Rheims. The European war was over. Eagle 7 sat motionless in a wheat field outside Magdeburg, engines silent for the first time in months. Smoyer climbed out of the gunner's position and stood on the turret. The countryside stretched endlessly. Green fields, scattered farmhouses, no muzzle flashes, no explosions, no enemy tanks lurking behind ridge lines, just silence. The quiet felt strange after weeks of constant combat. His ears still rang from gun blasts. His hands still trembled slightly from adrenaline that no longer had purpose. The war machine had stopped, but the machine operators needed time to wind down. Early joined him on the turret. 23 kills, Smoyer. Not bad for a cardboard tank. The joke carried weight now. Every German prisoner they'd interrogated had heard the term Panzer, cardboard tanks. The Wehrmacht had built an entire tactical doctrine around American armor weakness. Engage at close range. use superior firepower, exploit thin armor. The doctrine had worked perfectly against Sherman's. 75mm guns couldn't penetrate German heavy armor at combat ranges. American tank crews died in burning hulls while German crews collected easy victories. The kill ratios were devastating. But the Pershings had changed the equation overnight. Cooper's maintenance teams were conducting post-combat inspections. Every tank required complete overhaul. Worn tracks, stressed engines, damaged transmissions. Months of continuous operation had taken toll on mechanical systems. The statistical analysis told the story clearly. 210 Pershings had been issued to combat units in Europe. 197 were still operational on Victory Day. 13 had been destroyed by enemy action. 0 had been abandoned due to mechanical failure. Compare that to Sherman statistics. 30,000 Shermans deployed to Europe. 8,000 destroyed in combat, 12,000 abandoned due to mechanical breakdown. The reliability differential was striking. Smoyer walked around Eagle 7 slowly. The hull showed multiple impact marks, 88mm rounds that had bounced off frontal armor, Panzerfaust hits that had failed to penetrate, machine gun bullets that had left scratches on steel plate. Each mark represented a moment when superior armor had saved lives. American tank crews who went home to their families instead of dying in foreign fields. The industrial miracle had a human dimension that statistics couldn't capture. The psychological impact was equally significant. German tank crews had lost their confidence. Radio intercepts from March and April showed declining morale. Unit commanders reported reluctance to engage superior enemy armor. Withdrawal requests became routine. The hunters had become the hunted. Lieutenant Colonel Sweat arrived at Eagle 7's position at 14:30 hours. 3rd Armored Division was conducting final equipment inspections before redeployment. Every Pershing would be evaluated for service life and mechanical condition. "How's she running, Sergeant?" Sweat asked early. "Like a clock, sir. 23 kills and still purring." Sweat examined the gun barrel. No stress fractures, no excessive wear. The 90mm M3 had fired over 400 rounds in combat. High explosive, armor-piercing, HVAP. Each shot had been accurate. Each target had been destroyed. The industrial achievement was remarkable. American factories had designed and built a weapon system that matched German heavy armor in every category. De Regie was cleaning the turret interior, removing spent shell casings, cataloging remaining ammunition, organizing equipment for transport. The loader's job continued, even after the shooting stopped. "How many HVAP rounds did we fire?" Smoyer asked. 37, de Regie replied, without hesitation. Never missed once. The tungsten cord rounds had been devastatingly effective. Every HVAP shot had achieved penetration. Every penetration had resulted in a kill. The physics were unforgiving. 246 millimeters of penetration at 1,000 yards. No German tank could survive that impact. But HVAP ammunition had been critically scarce. Each Pershing carried only 12 rounds initially. Supply convoys brought additional stocks, but never enough. Every shot had to count. Every target had to be worth the precious tungsten. The scarcity had forced tactical discipline. Smoyer couldn't waste shots on marginal targets. He had to identify genuine threats, calculate ranges precisely, account for target movement and environmental factors. The limitation had made him a better gunner. By late afternoon, maintenance teams had completed inspections. Eagle 7 was mechanically sound, engine compression within specifications. Transmission operated smoothly, electrical systems functioned normally. The tank was ready for whatever came next. But what came next was peace. Smoyer sat in the gunner's position one final time. The periscope showed the same wheat field, the same scattered farmhouses, the same peaceful countryside. But his perspective had changed completely. He was no longer the crew member of a despised cardboard tank. He was the gunner of the most feared weapon on European battlefields. German tank crews had radioed warnings when Pershings appeared. Infantry units had requested immediate withdrawal. Artillery observers had called for maximum fire support. The transformation was complete. American industry had taken 3 years to develop effective heavy tanks. 3 years of battlefield defeats, 3 years of technological inferiority, 3 years of unnecessary casualties in burning Sherman hulls. But when the solution arrived, it was overwhelming. The Pershing didn't just match German heavy armor, it exceeded German capabilities in every measurable category. Better gun, better armor, better reliability, better crew survivability. The cardboard tank myth had died in the wheat fields and industrial towns of Western Germany. 23 confirmed kills by one crew in one tank proved the point decisively. American steel was no longer inferior to German engineering. Cooper's final maintenance report summarized the achievement succinctly. T-26E3 tanks demonstrated superior performance in all combat categories. Recommend immediate production increase, but the recommendation came too late. The war in Europe was over. Production continued for several months. Over 2,000 Pershings were built by end of 1945. But they never saw combat in Europe again. Some were shipped to the Pacific for the planned invasion of Japan. But the atomic bombs eliminated that need. The Pershing had arrived just in time to prove its worth in Europe, then became obsolete before fully demonstrating its capabilities. Smoyer climbed out of the tank for the last time as a combat gunner. The war was over. The mission was complete. The cardboard tanks had become the most feared weapons on the battlefield. American industrial capacity had triumphed over German technological superiority. The myth was dead. The victory was complete. 41 tons of American steel had restored the balance of armored warfare. The hunters and the hunted had changed places permanently. Technical inferiority had been overcome through industrial determination. The lesson would echo through decades of future conflicts. Superior design, properly applied, could neutralize any enemy advantage. Eagle 7 would return to America. Most Pershings were eventually scrapped or sold to Allied nations. Some served in Korea against Soviet T-34s. The design formed the basis for the Patton series. M46, M47, M48, M60. Over 36,000 Patton tanks were built, representing the backbone of American armored forces for decades. But the original Pershings, the 20 tanks that arrived in January 1945, the tanks that proved American armor could match German engineering, those tanks changed warfare psychology forever. They proved that technological advantage was temporary, that industrial capacity could overcome tactical superiority, that determination and resources could triumph over experience and skill. The German tank crews, who mocked American cardboard tanks in early 1945, learned a harsh lesson by war's end. The 90mm gun that they dismissed as inadequate became the gun they feared most. The armor they believed was too thin proved thick enough to stop their best weapons. The tank they thought was inferior dominated every battlefield where it appeared. The transformation from mockery to terror took less than 3 months, from January's deployment to April's surrender. 90 days that changed the balance of armored warfare permanently. Thank you for watching. For more detailed historical breakdowns, check out the other videos on your screen now, and don't forget to subscribe.